Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James.
Side into the end zone, jump ball, and it is. Is it caught? Is it caught? Oh my goodness, it's caught. DeAndre Hopkins caught it. He caught it for a touchdown with 1 second left. I can't believe it.
Always a funky jam.
Oh, welcome back, Travis.
Oh, hey guys, how's it going?
It's going great, dude. How was your? We'll start off with how was your trip to Disney World in Florida?
Disney World in Florida, for those of you that don't know, because Aaron and Daniel spoke about it a little bit, but me and Olivia took a trip down to Florida, Orlando. We went and saw 4 different parks last week for celebrating our 1-year anniversary. So first day we got there, it was a great time. We went to Animal Kingdom, which was awesome, Pandora World, all those different things. It was a great time. The visuals and detail that they put into that place, man, ridiculous. It's incredible. There was not one screw
How
up.
many days were you there?
We were there we got there at 5 in the morning, and then we were there 4 nights.
Did you go to a park, a different park each day, basically?
Well, the first day we didn't really go to a park. We just kind of, because we got there at 5 in the morning.
So you squeezed 2 parks in one day.
So we squeezed 2 parks in one day. Unfortunately, we couldn't originally get into the Animal Kingdom because we had to make or not the Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom, the main one. We had to get reservations. We weren't able to, but the trick was we get the park hopper pass, and at 2 o'clock they started letting people in. So the first half of that last day, we went to Epcot, which was cool, but it was definitely a half a park day. We realistically only spent 2 to 3 hours.
Hey, everyone's trying to wonder, what was the restrictions like? What was the COVID restrictions? Was there masks? Everybody, because Florida and Texas were the ones that were saying, fuck it, right? They're just
I think Texas was more fuck it than Florida, but because it's Disney, everybody had to wear a mask.
Oh, okay.
Everybody wore a mask, and it wasn't the gym or anything like that where everybody had it down. They literally had about 40 employees in each park walking around making sure everybody's wearing a mask. That's all they did. Everybody was wearing a mask. All the lines were separated by 6 feet, 6 feet standing here for per pod or party. Wow. And I'll tell you what, though, Disney was efficient.
That's dope.
Those lines, man, just walking. I mean, some of them are upwards of almost a quarter mile long, but not a long wait. It's just walking zigzag. They extended everything out.
There,
yeah,
bud.
we got our steps in, man. I think we walked 18 miles a total of the 4 days.
Jesus, that's pretty firm.
It was a lot of walking. My blisters are burning, but also the first day of us being there was the first day free agency opened up. So I was kind of in 2 places at once.
Glued to your phone,
yeah, I was
Bleacher Report saying, what?
It's Liv, I got to use the charger. It's me.
Chargers made a lot of upgrades to their offensive line. I saw PFF graded them as the best or the most upgraded.
Most improved, yeah.
Yeah, most improved in their group of the offensive line.
Yeah, there's some stuff I definitely want to talk about that once we get into free agency.
But that's cool, dude. That sounds like it was a fun trip. I didn't really do too much. Went golfing.
Mm-hmm.
Did a terrible day of golfing. Me and Garrett had atrocious days, but it was still fun golfing. What am I mad about, really?
Yeah.
Just got this Tatis jersey.
Oh, he's so proud of it.
Very proud of
get
this.
Get the visual.
Get in. I don't have it. It's I'm not gonna get up, but El Nino.
You don't want to give us a twirl?
He just got hurt today too, so I was fuck.
No.
But it's just a shoulder injury. Hopefully he's gonna be all right. But
a bigger injury that happened we could get into is the LeBron thing. Do you want to transition from your jersey?
Jump into it. We're gonna go right into basketball, going right into Lakers. Go for it.
So LeBron James, did you watch this play, Aaron, or did you see the replay?
I watched the replay of it many a times, and it looked kind of dirty to me, bro. I'm not even going to front. A lot of the Laker players thought it was dirty. You say it wasn't a basketball player. Who was it again?
I don't remember.
It was exactly my point, even more so. It was that guy.
Yeah.
And he was going for a dive, or diving for a ball, and LeBron was there, and but when he dove into it, he kind of threw his shoulder more into LeBron, and it looked a little dirty. And I was like, damn. And a high ankle sprain. I've had one myself when I was at Palomar, and I missed about 4 to 5 weeks. And it is a gnarly injury. It is bad, bro. It's not fun to deal with.
It's funny how they always say, when you have a sprained ankle or a stuffy nose, all you can think about is what life was like before you had it.
Yes. That's absolutely true.
Every step, oh, man, I remember when I had 2 good ankles, man. It's just the worst. But I don't necessarily think it was a predetermined thing. Obviously, I don't think he's walking around there how am I going to hurt LeBron? I don't think it was like that. But
no, but still.
But it was kind of one of those things where, he knew what he was doing. He knew that LeBron, I think he was kind of just expecting LeBron to just get, kind of where guys go into your side of your legs and you just roll over them and they're fine. I think he was expecting that.
Doing, though.
But he did know, he knew that, okay, yeah, I'm going to dive for this ball, and I'm going to kind of lean into him. It was a split-second instant decision, and I don't want to bash him too hard for it. But, yeah, I do think there was a little bit of dirt in that play.
It's unfortunate now because since LeBron, like our whole offense and our whole team is obviously revolved around LeBron and AD. We've obviously managed without AD and Marc Gasol, and our defense was still like the number 2 or number 1 efficiency since AD went out with 18 games. And that's a credit to LeBron, really, because he's been playing at an all NBA defensive level. And with him out, our offense and defense have absolutely been atrocious. Like, you can't expect that. We have 3 starters down with Marc Gasol, AD, and LeBron down.
2 of them are our 2 best players.
You know what I mean?
And
This is another thing I was thinking on the way over here is like, in the history of the NBA, AD and LeBron are 1 and 2 in player efficiency rating. 1 and 2. AD is there. AD is number 2. And that's efficiency. Like, that's the most important stat, in my opinion, like how efficient you are. And we have the 1 and 2 players on our team, and that's why we want to chip, and both of them are out. So, like, what the fuck do you expect? It's gross because today we played the Pelicans, obviously with the trade and everything. Like, it makes headlines. We got blown the fuck out. We looked absolutely atrocious. Dennis Schroeder at one point was 2 of 10. Kuz was shooting inefficient. He was like 6 of 16 like he does. Montrez had a quiet 5 of 10, 18 points, 5 rebounds kind of night. KCP was 1 of 8 tonight. Like, it's not looking good, and it's like we had his power ranked at 7th. At this point, I'm kind of scared of where we're going to be in the standings by the time LeBron comes back.
You know what this year's kind of reminding me of with the Lakers? The last year with KD and Golden State. We're like, oh, yeah, they're the best team, but Kevin Durant had nagging injuries the whole year. Steph missed a lot of time that year. It was kind of one of those things where, yeah, they were the best team, but something kind of felt off. Almost again like the Chiefs. Like, the Chiefs were always the best team, but they're missing their tackles. It's kind of like, I don't know. Like, I feel a little uneasy about the season as it goes. Because, I mean, we can't just expect the playoffs to roll around. And even if LeBron and AD got the right amount of rest, I don't expect them to just go in and be healthy. I think the shortened off season, I think the Lakers' overall age affect how the season's going.
And the second half of the season, we've been put in back-to-backs, like constant. We have the most back-to-backs in the second half of the season, which is absolutely ridiculous, especially for the reasons you just said, having the shortest offseason, and we went to the finals, and we have, I don't know, just
old guys that we're relying on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we have
need
an
Keith,
old rock.
we need LeBron, like, we need Mark. Like, we can't just, like,
fuck, man. Like, we are literally getting shafted by the NBA. And it's like, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of weird. You know how, like, the NBA is always better when the Lakers are good, right? Like, that's always been the case. And, yeah, we're good now. But now you guys, like, it seems like because we're good, like, oh, LeBron, the narrative is they're not going to get awards. Frank Vogel's not going to get the award for Coach of the Year because he's a Laker coach and they're expected to it. And, like, you want the Lakers to be prominent and in the media, but you don't want to give us credit at the same time.
Well, I mean, it's the mighty king, right? Everybody loves, the only thing people love to see more than the king rise is the king fall. And that's what the Lakers are. It's all part of the journalism and the story, right? The crown jewel rose back to the top from its despair, and now it's falling apart. That's just as good. And if they win at the end of the year going through all this shit, it's just as good again.
God,
So
the sons of bitches.
you know what I mean? It's the same roller coaster you go on at every theme park. It's just colored different with different themes, but it's the same fucking ride. Like,
God
you
damn
know
it,
what I mean?
Travis, you're so right.
But if they are 100% healthy by the playoffs start, and if AD could get his minutes lowered, you know what I think?
Big if now.
But
I
for the-
hate that it is.
The fact that the Lakers are sitting where they're at, having.
But dude, it's
But
not looking good.
like our
I am
young
not
guys are
optimistic.
looking. We're like 2 games back from the number 1 seed. Like we're
We're like 4 games back now.
Well,
or
we
3
were
games.
like 1.5,
But you feel,
we're there.
But dude, like we're also only like 6.5 back from the 7th seed, which is a fucking possibility by the time LeBron comes back that we're dropping.
I don't care what seed we're in. I kind of want to take. Who's the second seed? I want to. Dude, you just think the first round matchup with the Jazz ain't that bad? Because I think that's not that bad.
That's fucking hilarious.
You know what I mean?
Dude,
if you told me at the beginning of the year, oh, your first round matchups with the Jazz. All right, cool.
Bet.
Good. You nice little
know.
warm up series. Like, I ain't tripping. But
Dude, I feel you, and I kind of saw that scenario where it told you, like, if you were the 7th seed, where you would be playing, like, you'd be playing. We're gonna be playing the Suns and Clippers. I saw them both won, so it's just like, the show, run it, bro.
I'd rather take the Clippers early on so we can get rid of them and get some, don't have to get worn down by the end of the series or the end of the playoffs. But I mean, not to talk too much on the Lakers, but I think we can transition that pretty well into trade deadline and trade talk going
And
on.
buyouts. There's
And
a lot
buyouts.
of the buyout market this year is going to be huge. I sent you a thing earlier that
With
we
JJ
just saw
Redick?
JJ Redick is going to be on the buyout market because Pelicans can't find a trade from. JaVale McGee, they've been asking for a second round pick. He's going to get bought out. That's a possibility. Excuse me. Andre Drummond has been the biggest name, in my opinion, in terms of getting bought out. The Cavs are – no one wants him. I know it's kind of funny. It's because of his contract. He's getting promised guaranteed like $27 million
Drummond?
this year. Yeah.
When does that expire? Because
Fuck me. That's a fucking firm
Because if you
deal.
got to pay 2 to 3 years, I'm like, Brad, I don't even think
Yeah.
I'm good on that.
I'm good on that too. I don't know the exact
Well, I mean,
details.
Blake Griffin was owed a shit ton of money too, and they bought him out.
Exactly.
So, I mean, nothing's undoable.
Nothing's undoable. And then, like, with the trade deadline, like you mentioned, Victor Oladipo is probably the biggest name that's going to be on the trade block.
And I think Raptors were working on moving Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan.
He's been, though. for a
He's
minute.
been Aldridge, Rudy Gay. Literally, that whole roster on the Spurs, they're just saying, like, yo, they're about to blow shit up. They already on the verge
and
of
I
blowing
could see
shit
Pop
up.
being like, I ain't going to hang around. For
I
a
was
rebuild.
about to say that. I don't think Pop hangs around to see this shit blown up and
Dude's
trying to
like
get built back.
82.
Like,
He's
dude,
good.
dude, I was already having heart problems. Like, unfortunately, his wife pass away?
I think she did maybe a year ago or so.
So it's just like, dude, go retire, go enjoy.
Well, maybe this is good for him. Maybe he has, since his wife is. I don't want to get too deep into this.
Yeah,
but,
right, I don't know.
But yeah, the trade deadline, right? Some names that are on the move, potentially, at least are trying to get moved. The biggest one for me, I know we talked about in the car, Miles Turner. He's a guy I'd like to see.
And Brogdon.
And Brogdon, another guy I would love to see the
That's
Lakers
weird.
go
I
after.
think
Indiana
that's the
has
weird.
all these dudes.
That's
that
the
I want.
weirdest name on the trade deadline. And I even saw Sabonis' name getting floated around.
If Indiana trades Sabonis, the guy should just sell the team. Like, what are you talking about? You have a 24-year-old two-time All-Star. Like, how else are you going to find him? What, you too scared to pay him? What are we talking about?
Yeah, they'd be. The fact that they even have Miles Turner, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, what's going through their heads on, like.
Are they just doing shitty this year? I don't even know how Indiana is.
Dude, they're so irrelevant. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, let's just say I'm not worried about the Indiana Pacers.
A trade that I want to see the Lakers do, and we're going to get into this, and we're going to see some likely trades that we see happen and, like, who's going to get bought out. One trade that we talked about and I think is a real possibility, and hear me out on that for all our Lakers fans. I know Cisco might be listening, but Montrez, KCP, and THT. And the THT is the sweetener in this deal, and this is to Indiana for Brogdon and Miles Turner, and that's firm, and I understand that. The contracts actually work out. You know what I mean? KCP is the 3-year, $40 million. Montrez is only getting promised like $9 million this year,
Yeah, I think
right?
it's 2 years, 18.
And then THT is on a rookie contract
Yeah.
where he's getting paid chump change.
like $500,000.
So like that works out with Miles Turner is getting paid I think like $7 million this year, and then Brogdon's getting paid $12.
yeah.
So like the
This
money,
has got to be matched, I think, 80%.
yeah, and it literally works out. However, Indiana, in my opinion, would be idiotic to make that trade. But it kind of works out because KCP is a veteran 3, you know what I mean, like 3-and-D guy that you can plug in anywhere. Montrez, you know, a guy off the bench, 6-man Player of the Year candidate every year, a guaranteed like 16-7 every game. And then you got a young THT that's the sweetener in the deal, 20-year-old guy that, you know, we
He's
got
a
in the
ball
second
handler,
round. Yeah. But in the Lakers buy for a championship this year. You know what I mean? Brogdon coming off the bench. He's averaging like 17 this year. Very efficient from 3. Miles Turner, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, averaging about 3.5 blocks. It literally all works out. Lob threats, everything works out. It's too good to be true. I don't think it happens, but that's mine. That's what I'm hoping for. Praying and hoping for.
I feel where you're coming at, but the problem with that is the KCP. He has no trade clause, man. Like we talked, remember? Like that's the one thing that's like we
I
can't.
literally also forgot about that.
Yeah, we
again.
talked about that earlier, but it kind of slipped my mind at the beginning too. I think that's a doable trade if you swap out KCP and Kuzma. I know that's a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I know that's a lot, but if you swap KCP and Kuzma and you get young 20-year-old THT because they need guard help, you get 2 guys at one in Kuz you could put in the 3, and then Trez you're obviously going to put on the 6-man. Like
that
on the bench.
looks better too.
Like that looks good for them. That's like
that
a
looks
doable
good
deal.
for Indiana. Damn it, you didn't even mention that in the car.
And then
Were
you
you
keep-
saving that? That was
No,
nice.
no, I just thought of it. But then you keep KCP at the starting 2, and then you swap out on the bench Trez and Kuz and THT, and you swap that out with Brogdon, and then you move Mark to the bench and have Miles Turner start. I'm just saying that's pretty nice.
That's pretty nice, and it works for both teams. Wow, that was a good one.
Other names though, Victor Oladipo. I hear that the Miami Heat are trying to go on Victor.
I saw the Miami Heat are shopping Tyler Hero and they're shopping Bradley Beal. Those are like pretty.
Bradley Beal's on the Wizards. Who are you talking about?
Not Bradley Beal. I'm so sorry. Avery Bradley.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Avery Bradley.
I forget
And it's
you.
kind of weird because like he hasn't really said anything. Like I haven't seen him even suit
I haven't
up for
seen him
Miami,
either, yeah.
and he was great for the Lakers. In my opinion, I'm like, I was rooting for the Lakers to get him back last year, and they got I feel like the Miami got him cheap, and they're not even playing him. It's kind of weird, and I don't really know what they're planning on doing with him. I don't know. I don't know what the Miami Heat do. I see the Miami Heat making a lot of talks elsewhere. Do you think the Miami Heat make some deals at the trade deadline? What do you think they do?
I mean, they got a ton of guards, man. Like even Jimmy Butler can
None.
be considered at a guard. They got none. They got Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero,
Right.
And you still got Goran Dragic.
I see a
And
lot
then
of
you added
team-
Avery Bradley. Like,
yeah, and a lot of teams are valuing Tyler Hero over Duncan Robinson in trade talks, I heard.
yeah, and if you can get you got Bam obviously, but shit, if somebody like Miles Turner or Brogdon, like we're saying, or even a Victor Oladipo, a guy who can score on his own, like isolate, not just flooded 3-point shooters, guys you can play with Jimmy. I mean, those are pretty solid moves, and I think
Put him over the top.
that would help Miami. In the
Miami's
East.
been looking great, and Jimmy Butler should be in the MVP conversation.
They got it squared away, definitely. Remember
Like,
how bad they started?
Yeah, they started off terrible, but Jimmy was also hurt. They were dealing with injuries
and
themselves.
the same thing we were with the stupid turnaround.
Yeah,
They were in the-
exactly.
They played, just as
They
long as
played in
we
the
did.
finals too, so fuck me.
Yeah.
And so like I love that the Heat because I remember I was literally like, oh dude, the Heat are not as good as everyone thought they were, blah blah blah. And I was also jumping off ship. I'm jumping back on just because I love Jimmy. And he's been averaging like 24, 9, and 9 in the last since he's come back from injury. Last 14 games, Miami Heat have won like 10 out of the last like 13. Like they're on fire.
Yeah. Something you would love to see the Lakers turn around. I don't know of any other big heads that are going to get moved. Do you think the Clippers are going to finally get a guard?
I think the Clippers make moves, bro. I saw Lonzo was connected to him and Russell Westbrook. And those are two big-ass names connected to the Clippers because they're looking for playmakers off the bench other than, Lou Will.
Lou Will.
And I think Lou Will gets shipped in that trade. I think Lonzo would be perfect for the Clippers, to be honest with you.
God, that's a good
It
fit.
honestly, it's a great
perimeter
fit.
defender, like big,
It's
tall,
a great
that's a
fit,
great
and he
fit.
doesn't need his shots. He's actually been averaging like 7 3-pointers a game, but hit him at a 41% clip this year. He would be perfect in that offense, and he gets put back with fucking
Zubac.
Zubac. Thank you. That's exactly who I was thinking of. Dude, I think that's a fit made in heaven, and anything the Clippers can do to make that happen. Russell, no, don't fucking do that. Like that's idiotic.
No, I want them to do
I
that.
would love them to
I
do that
want
because
them
it
to
would
get
be
Russell.
idiotic.
Like, hey, go for it, Clippers.
I love
Don't-
Russ. That's not a slight at Russ because I'm a huge Russ fan, but like that's just not
The
wise.
game has passed him by. Yeah, go ahead. So I'll take that. Russell Westbrook on the Clippers would be the biggest shit show in the entire world. You would have the guy who just completely dominates the ball, one of the most ineffective off-ball shooters, paired with guys like Kawhi and Paul George, another pair of guys who can't do anything off the ball. It would be literally them just going up the court, taking turns, and the guy standing in the corner. I'm on my own now, so I'm just going to go because Aaron's gone. But those two guys standing in the corner is a complete waste of their talent. There's so many different things that you can do with the correct guard just running the show. Like Reggie Jackson is not the guy that can facilitate for others or even get off-ball cutters getting the ball. Like they're literally a bunch of useless people. I said the same thing last year that I'm going to say about the Nets. It's not a team. It's just a collection of really good players. The Nets system, their team, their deal doesn't fit, just like I don't think the Clippers did last year. Everybody was so scared, like, how are you going to stop Kawhi? How are you going to stop Paul George? Oh, they got Lou Will and Trez, blah, blah, blah. They're not a team, bro. The
disagree.
Clippers aren't. I don't think the Clippers are a
Oh,
team.
the Clippers? No, the Nets are. The Nets look.
no.
I'm on board with the Nets, and I didn't want to be. I was originally I remember like 2 pods ago. I was really scared of the Clippers. I remember mentioning that.
Yeah.
I'll hold true to that, and I still am till way, especially if they make some moves in the trade deadline and the buyout market. But the inconsistency is what gets me. And you know what I mean? Like the Lakers have kind of been inconsistent, but like when we're healthy, we're not. We are fucking always dialed in on defense for at least
when everyone's good, we're
and our
fantastic.
defense is literally so fucking swarming and just like amazing to watch. Like it's beautiful. And that's when we're healthy. And that's the biggest if with the Lakers. And I always bring it back to Lakers because obviously. But when you're saying that like the collective of the team, I think you're wrong with the Nets. Mainly because like I just watched like Blake Griffin play tonight and play minimal minutes. He's playing his role, dude. That dude's not trying to do anything out of pocket. He's diving for balls and shit. James Harden has become a facilitator. Daniel mentioned it last pod on like he is becoming the best part of himself, and I agree. He has evolved his game. Literally 4 years ago, he was the assist leader. The following year, he was the assist leader. The last 2 years, he was the scoring leader. And then this year, he's also the assist leader. This guy is a bona fide fucking maniac with the ball in his hands, and he has done nothing but amazing things for the Nets. He's like in the MVP conversation, and the reason why he wouldn't be is because how good Kyrie is, and KD's been out, and that's the reason why his candidacy seems a little bit more realistic. But to say that they're a collection of just people is wrong, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, where the parallel is like when you look at Kawhi and Paul George, they're both identical at the things their skill set's good at. And even with the Marcus Morris signing, right, like the really good wing defenders and the shooters. I hear what you're saying about James, but that's also not necessarily a strong suit. And Kyrie Irving off ball is definitely not a strong suit. When you go back to not the Lakers, but the entire bubble, if you will, those things got exploited. The same things that happen every year. Like when you have 2 weeks for the same team, when you have a week to prepare for one team in specific, it's different. Because like if you're playing the Nets, like say you play the Nets on Friday, I got the Hornets tonight. I got LaMelo Ball flinging passes all over the place. R.I.P. He's not really dead, but he's out for the year. I got LaMelo Ball slinging passes everywhere, going over the head, behind the back. Like, I got to worry about that. And then the next week I have, LeBron's coming into town on his West Coast road trip. Get ready to get rolled over. And then, Brooklyn's coming tomorrow night on a back-to-back. Like, you can't plan and put things together the same way. It's different. James Harden gets out-coached out of the playoffs every single year because of the schemes that they put around him, the lack of success. That's why he's never good. Kyrie is a little bit different because he's, I think, more purely talented as a scorer. You can't necessarily just stop. But the physicality increases in the defense. You will get exploited defensively on that end. And Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant. I don't really got much to say about it. But and Blake Griffin, what did the Nets need, man? They needed defense and athleticism. They got Blake Griffin. You know what I mean? Do you think the Nets needed more scoring? I would rather have the ball in Kyrie, James Harden, or Kevin Durant's hand 10 out of 10 times, and all Blake Griffin does being on the floor is take it away from him. So that's why I don't he's not a good rebounder anymore. He's a decent post defender. He's not going to help in swat.
I don't necessarily think the Blake Griffin put him over the top, and I agree with that, but like you just said, those three guys, dude, that's the scariest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, they're the names are crazy, but that's why I'm saying the same thing with the Clippers. On paper, I feel like they're too much of just a collection of talent. Even Miami, look at their success last year. They had guys who could facilitate, and they had shooters running around everywhere, and they had Bam Adebayo playing in the center that goes so versatile.
I think Miami kind of reminded me more of the Pistons in 2004.
Exactly.
They got kind of like
they're
a
team, bro.
That
there
looked
was a
good, and they did
of a
everything
good
right to get to where they're at, and
Yeah.
they just kind of faltered to the better team.
Yeah, and the Lakers were literally that. They were a team, but just better because more talented. But the way that we fit together, everybody playing their role, I don't know if Brooklyn is going to be as good and cohesive.
We just got to hope and pray that we're healthy. That's literally the biggest if. Other than that, in the buyout market, I hope we get Drummond. JaVale might, but other than that, there's not two other big names.
Yeah, there's no massive guy moving that I know of, or at least heard of.
No. All right, I'm ready to move on to some NFL free agency.
Oof.
And a little third wave. Would you say it's the third wave of this little free agency?
I think it still counts as the second. It could be the third. Yeah, we'll just say the third.
So let's say some of the big names that got signed. I saw Joe Flacco signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles. Obviously to play backup veteran role, 1 year, $3.2 million. Adoree Jackson from the Titans got cut, and he signed with the Giants with Logan Ryan, who was
for what, $10 million a year?
Yeah, dude, he literally got paid more. It was funny, the fact that he got cut
and then got a bigger contract.
Exactly, and he got 3 years, $39 million, and it was 22 guaranteed.
I wanted Dory, but that was steep, man. Good.
That's pretty steep. I thought he was going to get $7 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, shit, we got Michael Davis for $7 million a year, and I'd rather have him over Adoree Jackson. Michael Davis has been really good for the Chargers.
Another thing, Sheldon, the Rams wide receiver, signed with the Titans. He's going to be more of a
who did
wide receiver 3. I think his name was Josh Sheldon.
Oh, Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds. Thank you. So Josh Reynolds, he had a career year, 52 catches, 682 yards last year. Big guy. He has like he's 6'2" with a big radius. You know what I mean? We got it kind of like we didn't have any
What's
other.
your guys' tight end situation?
Right now we have a couple guys, Michael Pruitt and Swain. We're probably going to I don't know, dude. It's weird. Like
Yeah.
the funny Pruitt was actually really efficient last year. Like he lined
know
up
the
in a
name,
slot a lot, and when Johnny was hurt for a little bit, he got a lot of PT. So like I think we're gonna try to use him a little bit more and just add him into the offense, especially for fantasy reasons. Just to know it. But we'll see what we do in the draft and also what else is there. I saw Delaney Walker. I doubt that fucking reunion happens, but
No, I mean, there's still two tight ends that I think are worth a solid amount.
Zach
free agency.
Ertz,
I
right?
think Zach Ertz and David Njoku. Those are the
Yeah.
two guys I would rather have than Jared Cook. I know David Njoku's going to get moved, and Zach Ertz is definitely going to
Jared
get
Cook
moved.
just got signed, didn't he?
Yeah, Jared Cook went to the Chargers.
Yeah.
I would rather have those other two guys. That's why I was
Yeah, I
bummed
thought that was
about
kind
it.
of a weird signing too.
It was weird, but I mean, Joe Lombardi was a Saints coordinator, so I'm sure that's why.
Kind of makes sense. Another couple signings. Mike Davis got signed as well. 2 years, $9 million with the fucking Raiders.
Wait, which one?
Mike Davis from the Carolina.
The running back, or was he?
Mhm,
Yeah,
running back.
Yeah.
He went to the Raiders. That obviously hurts Josh Jacobs kind of fancy value.
But it also hurt Josh Jacobs' fantasy value. The Raiders cut their starting guard and center, and they lost Trent Brown, 3 starting offensive linemen from last year.
Yeah, I really
Gone.
don't know what the Raiders are doing, like in free agency and everything. They let Nelson go, which
Yeah.
was their best receiver last year. He had
He
a
went to New
breakout year.
England.
He went to New England. Dude, just a lot of weird things that
They
have been.
haven't even and they still have Mariota. They haven't acquired anything. I feel like they've just let everybody go.
Yeah, the Raiders kind of like doing the Raider things. They're kind of just a shit show, and I don't really know what's going on or what their overall plan is. It's kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of teams that kind of feel that way.
Do you want to know what I'm the most just confused about? Like, I don't want to bash this team because they're obviously going to be in it for a while, but the Kansas City Chiefs, I can't quite wrap my head around their problems. Last year in the Super Bowl, they got smoked. Why? Because both their left and both their right tackle were missing. That was it. The edges destroyed them.
They got hurt.
They were hurt. And then
Great tackles.
Eric Fisher got cut and Mitchell Schwartz got cut.
Yep.
They cut their 2 tackles and they signed 2 guards.
Yep.
So those 2 tackles, what are we
thinking?
thinking? Like, oh, cool, you got Joe Thuney, but I mean, 80 mil, that's a little steep, right, for a 28-year-old guard. And then, oh, cool, you got Kyle Long on a 1-year deal. Well, he's been out of the league and he's retired.
And that hopefully that's what I was about to say. I was like, they got Kyle Long on a cheap deal, and that's basically what they had to do. They had to go get.
Yeah.
And Kyle Long is a Pro Bowl guy.
He's
and if
good.
he- on a 1 year. I don't know.
But,
I
who's
know,
your left?
I
Do you think there's
know.
going to be a premier tackle available at 31? Do you think, I mean, I know this is a good draft for tackles, but, you want to just slide a 31st overall pick at protecting Patrick Mahomes' blindside? Like, that's the move we're making?
That's kind of tough, but think about what the Buccaneers did. They got their right tackle of the future in the fucking late first round.
No,
and-
dude, Tristan Wirfs was 10 or 11.
Oh, that's right. He
Like,
was top
he
15. The
he
Bucks did have a
yeah.
high pick. Fuck.
They had a high pick, man.
Shit.
So it's just a weird, whatever. Don't get me wrong, Kansas City, please injure. Throw some kryptonite in Superman's crotch over there, all you can. Get rid of it. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see it. And the Chargers, like you said, they did make some moves on the offensive line. I know you guys weren't super thrilled with them last week, but I was pretty happy about it.
Talk about some of the moves that the Chargers did, and what do you want to see them do now? They obviously upgraded offensive line. That's what they needed to do. That was the number one thing. What other moves have you liked, and what else do you want to see them do?
Well, the 3 big signings that they did that weren't being retained was Corey Linsley, the center. He got a
Yep.
5
He was the
years,
highest paid
$62
center.
million. The cool thing about that contract is, it's a 5-year deal, but after 2 years we can opt out. We're only guaranteed 20 mil of it. So
That's
if by
nice.
33 years old he's old and sucks,
Something similar with Bud Dupree, by the way.
yeah, bounce. You're good.
Yep.
So I mean, that I don't hate that. I mean, I think I'd rather have Corey
And the
Linsley.
center's your quarterback of the offensive line. So
And they last a while. There's a lot of centers that have played till they're 35, and he's 30. So I mean, if he does get all 5 years, he gets all 5 years. Another signing that we did was Matt Filer, the guy from Pittsburgh. I know you guys were mentioning he was a tackle, but he was more of a guard in the last couple of years. He's played there, and he's very middle of the pack. Very
I think it was
average.
more of that was more of a depth signing.
I think he's going to slide in and start. I mean, he at this point, a middle of the pack guard is a hell of a lot better than the shit we've had. So I mean, for getting him at $7 million a year, a guy that's going to start and just not be horrible, I mean, I'll take that all day compared to what we've had. So we got like the guard, center. We still have Brian Balaga. The left side we're worried about. We signed a guy from Detroit. I don't love him, but we'll see what happens. And I'm hoping that they address it either in the draft or Orlando Brown Jr. has been floating around in a trade. There's a lot of
You
details
mentioned
of
that before. I also think he is a possibility for the Chiefs. By
That's
the way.
another thing. I was thinking about that. I was talking about it, but we'll see what happens because they're going to have to pay him anyways. He's coming up on a contract year, so I don't know if the Chiefs are willing to trade a pick and then just have to pay a dude. They can't.
There's a couple big names still out there. Richard Sherman is still out there.
Jadeveon Clowney's still out there.
Jadeveon Clowney. There's a couple big names. And so speaking of that, do you think the Chargers make any other moves with the cap room that they have?
I think they will. I think that, we still have a solid chunk. We have like 20 mil. They're going to have to pay somebody. I would like to add depth on the offensive line, continue to just try to find guys that we could either plug and play as starters or just guys that can, like I said, depth. We also still need secondary help. Big time. We cut Casey Hayward, saved 11 mil. That's cool, but we got to spend that 11 mil. Like, we have an empty
Desmond
corner.
King from last year.
Desmond King shipped out for a 6th-round pick, and then we re-signed Michael Davis, which is one thing I know we had to do. Michael Davis was our corner starting for the last 2 years, I believe, and he performed pretty well. Not special, but pretty well. We got him on a nice little deal. Other than that, I think we just need to bring in depth. I think our starting lineup's going to be formed for the first couple rounds of the draft, fill out those few big holes, and I'm excited for this team. I really am.
I'm really excited for the Chargers, too. I'm really optimistic about them going to the season, new head coach. So we'll kind of see how it goes, man.
Yeah. Oh, man, what about you? Titans, you kind of already mentioned a little bit of things. Is there any other big signings you want them to grab?
I've heard a couple different things.
Okay.
A couple different things that Sammy Watkins, I heard, is going to go to the Titans. I know he recently did a trip with Baltimore, Indianapolis. He's doing one with the Titans. I already saw from like a couple sources that he was leaning towards the Titans and he's going to fill into wide receiver 2 role. I think he's perfect next to AJ Brown. He's going to kind of fill in what CD Corey Davis kind of did for us, big receiver kind of type.
Yeah.
I still think that we go for either corner or wide receiver in the draft, depending on what we do in free agency. I also saw that the Titans re-signing Jadeveon, but on a much cheaper, like 1 year, $6 million deal, $7 million deal. With that, I still don't want him. He had fucking 8 games with us. He had 0 sacks. He had like 4 pressures. What the fuck he's going to do for me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hate that like the relationship that he has with Mike Vrabel's dictating the people that we signed. We just signed a former first-round pick from Cleveland, something Johnson, a corner.
Yeah.
And he is trash, bro. He was like the 47th ranked corner last year, and we signed him to be our starting corner. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, we had the worst secondary last year. We let go of Dory. We fucking let go of Kenny Vaccaro, which is not the worst thing, but then like you didn't upgrade. Another thing I saw the Titans doing, and I hope we do, it's kind of firm, but I saw us trading for Stephon Gilmore.
That would be, that might be a hefty price. Like, are you willing to part with a 2nd or 3rd rounder?
Absolutely. We got an extra 3rd rounder in the compensatory
I don't even
picks.
like how I said that. I don't like draft
With
picks are so
we mentioned
stupid,
that,
man. Like,
and this guy was the defensive player of the year 2 years ago. Yeah, he had a okay year, but he
he's
got
still
injured.
he's good enough to start corner. When
Bro.
you need a corner, Stephon Gilmore, he's not as good as he once was, but he's still fucking good.
Give me Stephon.
So I feel you. Yeah, his name's been floating on for a minute.
So if those 3 moves happen, if we go get Sammy Watkins on a reasonable deal to have wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, we go get Stephon Gilmore in a trade, and maybe we resign Jadeveon on a 1-year deal. We still address it in the draft. We get corner or edge, or we get that's the 3 needs: wide receiver, corner, and edge is for the Titans. But if we sign those 3 guys who literally play corner, wide receiver, and edge, we can play for, or we can draft for value.
Just best valuable.
Value rather
it.
than drafting for need. And also with Stephon Gilmore and Sammy Watkins, I know it's going to sound bold, but our Super Bowl window is still open. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The Titans are Super Bowl, we're top 8 team. We're absolutely like flirting with
and
that
you
team.
get Lewan back.
You know what I mean? We're like, our offensive line is going to be back to like Derrick Henry is not going to slow down. AJ Brown's a wide receiver 1. Tannehill's coming off a great season. I'm a little cautious of our defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen, who got promoted after having an atrocious year as a play caller. But I'm still optimistic as being a fan, but I need to see those signings happen. I trust John Robinson, but those are the signings I would like to see happen.
Well, speaking of that division, do you think like Jacksonville's something to be worried about now with Urban Meyer and the signings they've made, and now Trevor Lawrence probably coming in? Like, that it's kind of coming together a little bit for them. And how do you feel about Carson Wentz in Indianapolis? Is that something that you're worried about?
That's a good question. I was a little bit more worried about Phillip Rivers coming in, and I know that sounds kind of funny because Phillip Rivers coming in, I like the Colts offensive line. You know, the defense was pretty good, but they didn't utilize everything like I thought they were, and Phil looked a lot worse than I thought he was going to look, and I'm glad he retired. Getting Carson Wentz, I loved it as a Titans fan. I'm like, dude, cool. Bring the fucking one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen play in the last 2 years to this fucking team, and like, yeah, hopefully they do good, but name a wide receiver they got right now. They don't. They don't have weapons around them. They have good running backs.
Yeah, isn't T.Y. Hilton a free agent?
Exactly, and they're not
Like
thinking about
Michael Pittman Jr.
That's who am I stoked about that? Like they don't have a lot of weapons, and like they have decent running backs, they have good offensive line, and that's great and all. But the weapons aren't there, and I don't know. I'm sure they're cautiously optimistic in Indianapolis, but mentioning the Jacksonville, no, I'm never worried about Jacksonville, bro. Straight up, even when they were good with their defense and everything, I was still never worried about them.
What about Houston? Tyrod Taylor signed, dude. Are you?
Oh
sure?
no, Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, that's
signed.
a dumpster fire.
No, dude, it's the Titans division to lose right now, and I honestly think we should run it for the next 3 years. I hope we do, obviously, but we never know. Speaking of the Texans, I wanted to get into a little bit more back into Deshaun Watson. If you've mentioned that, we're going to revisit this especially because he's been in the news for really bad things recently. So I don't know if you heard this. About a couple weeks ago, he got 3 different women came out with sexual assault allegations. And then in the coming weeks, he had about 4 more. And then he had about 3 more. And so we're up to 10. And then this week, we got another 4. So we're up to 14 different women have had sexual assault allegations towards him. I want to mention that the people that are representing these people are the owners and the GM of the Texans, bro. You know that?
Oh, is it really?
It's literally like they're people that are representing these women. So like this is literally could be one or two things, and it's literally mind-boggling if it is one or the two.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which
Talk
one
about
it is.
corrupt.
Doesn't matter which one it is. If the Texans are just trying to slaughter Deshaun Watson's name with these allegations, that is amazingly bad in itself. Like that's fucking blows my mind.
If Deshaun Watson actually did all that,
if he is actually a sexual predator like he is, which is even worse than the first part, that is just the person that we thought was so wholesome and so good and never.
everybody loved him. Everybody was on his side.
Yeah, exactly. And to have this amount of things happen to him, and like someone really, like a woman came out and said he's a serial sexual assaulter.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But like, if that's the case, that's worse than anything that the Texans could have done. And that's, I don't even want to think about it. But like, with this being said, how do you feel like what's going to happen to Sean? What's going to happen with the Texans? What do you think with all this happening? What's going to happen with other teams wanting to trade for him? His trade value is looking really bad at this point, and the Texans are smiling and laughing to the bank with that. But if it's true,
but they are. That's kind of where I have that little trip up. How does this benefit Houston? They want his value to be as high as possible.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I was almost thinking like maybe Carolina Panthers, maybe they're like hired all these women to say stuff. Like obviously I don't want to sit there and say he's guilty or he's not guilty, because either way I'm calling either of these people liars or I'm calling Deshaun Watson a predator, and I don't want to do any of those things till we know more. What are we at, Chris?
38 minutes.
38, cool.
No, that's great. I really like.
But what if another team is like trying to fabricate all this to lower his value? So
dude, the NFL's so corrupt.
Yeah,
that,
they're
like,
all.
There's really nothing that's like that you could throw out the window. There's just so many possibilities, and it's kind of gross.
It's super gross, and it's so. I don't want to take a stance on either side because until we know more, because I don't want to ever call somebody that, and I also don't want to accuse these women of this stuff. So it's such a hard thing to talk about. But yeah, it definitely has stirred up the already craziest pot of offseason with Deshaun Watson, right? Like it just made it even more significant. Is it like Tiger Woods? Is it going to be that kind of like detrimental to his career? Because I don't think Houston wants his value to go down. That's how I can't see that happening.
That is a good point.
Houston doesn't want his value to be low. They want him to look like the golden boy.
and get rid of him.
And I feel like he has been. I think he has been a little bit overvalued during all this. Like, I think he's been a little bit overrated. Same thing with Hunter Henry. Like, everybody kept talking about how great he was. I was so happy to see him walk. He's not fucking good. Like, he hasn't been. And it's the same thing. Deshaun Watson's obviously a very great talent, but I don't think he's like top 5. You know, like you could go through it right now, but it's just a weird topic. And man, I hope to God that it's just people being corrupt. And
I hope
all that
it is
comes
too.
out.
Like, really, just for Deshaun Watson's. Like, I'm on Deshaun's side, so that, like, not side, but like I'm just hoping that all of this is not true. You know what I mean? For the lady's sake and for Deshaun's sake, I hope none of this is true. But it's unfortunate of how corrupt things can be.
Yeah, it was how it goes. But as far as division, I do think that the Colts are the biggest threat. Like, I feel you with Jacksonville and Houston. Like we said, like they're just
A dumpster fire.
the biggest dumpster fire in the NFL in a while.
Love it. I love everybody.
That's it used to be the Raiders, but now
It still is the Raiders.
I mean, they're up there, but they're not as big as the dumpster fire that is Houston. What about you? You got any baseball talk, dude? You want to?
No, that's that's exactly what I was about to ask. Okay, so like baseball starts in 9 days. Like the regular season starts in 9 days. Both teams, if you've been following it, it's spring training. You got to take everything with a grain of salt. The one thing that I've got to know about what I've noticed about the Dodgers, and that's obviously I know you know about the Dodgers, but Trevor Bauer has looked absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
He's looked absolutely atrocious during his time in spring training. And with that being said, does that concern you?
Are they going to play a full 162 this year?
They're playing 162, bro.
No. It's going to be ups and downs. Things are going to be iffy at first. Things are going to be iffy later on, but it's baseball. It all evens out, right? He has looked bad. Things will come together.
He's a pitcher. Things shit like this happen. It's
Yeah,
not
and what about
uncommon.
Tatis? Didn't he get hurt? Didn't you mention that?
Tatis just injured his shoulder again. I heard that if it was a real game that he would have played through it. I'm sure he would just because he's a young guy, but I'm not going to lie to you. It's discouraging just because like he had his back issues his rookie year. Even last year he flirted with some injuries and shit like that with his hamstring. So it's just like, dude, you're too young, too athletic to be having some of these injuries, and it's super discouraging. It's got this Tatis jersey. Like, come on, my guy.
And he just got, what, $500 million? How much did he get? Like
340. Yeah, I
that's a
know.
lot of money.
But
He's what, 23 years old?
no, he's 21.
Yeah, pulling hammies, my ass, bro. Eat a banana and get out there. Like,
I feel this. Drink some pickle juice.
yeah.
You'll be fine. No, I'm not too concerned about it, especially like from his reaction. He was able to walk off. Like, he was fine. He's batting like 400 on the spring
Hammies
trainings.
linger, man.
This wasn't a hammy injury. It was a shoulder. It was a shoulder.
That's
So
right.
like, but our pitching looks great. Yu Darvish looks great. Lement is scheduled to come back. Chris Paddock looks good. Mackenzie Gore looks good. I'm just super optimistic, super ready for the Padres season to get started. Another thing I want to mention about the Dodgers, and this is more for next year in terms of free agency. You do know that Cody Bellinger is about to be a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
You just obviously paid all this money to your pitching staff, the most money to any pitching staff. You just gave Mookie Betts over $300 million. Do the Dodgers find a way to keep Bellinger, or do the Yankees poach him away from him?
Well, one of the biggest thing the Dodgers had in advantage-wise, it's not being a salary cap league, or it not being a salary cap league, is that the price of admission and the amount of money they get through the stadium is a ton. They have the most visited park throughout the year, and now with COVID happening, their revenue's way down.
Did you see the price of the tickets for the Padres?
No, what is it?
No shit. I think it was like opening day. It was like $962 for
Jesus Christ,
opening
man.
day, and just like after that, just for regular, like there was a Dodger ticket, like just regular season Dodgers Padres and at Petco, and it was like starting was like $460 or some shit.
Yeah, it's different now.
Fuck,
And
I'm
all
not
that
gonna be able to see a game this
Yeah,
year.
all that revenue, man, like they lose all that. And I could, if it was a
That'd be
regular
fucked
year,
up.
if things were normal, yeah, I think the Dodgers fork out and pay Cody Bellinger. But we'll see what happens, because that also means other teams aren't going to have as much money. And the only teams that print as much money as the Lakers, the Dodgers, are Boston and New York. So I mean, if one of those
York's gonna
teams,
be that team.
if one of those teams can poach him away, then good for them. But Dodgers would be the only other guys. So we will find out soon enough.
All right, well, I'm ready to wrap it up. I'm kind of good. Like, we touched on the topics I wanted to touch on. Like, the Lakers are very concerning. We'll see how they bounce back with all the injuries. We touched on NFL free agency and like the second, third wave. I'm sure there's going to be another wave coming up. of who gets signed, and just kind of touched on everything I want to talk about.
Yeah, a little bit of a quiet week, especially after like the start of free agency and everything that happened last week. NBA is going to start picking up here soon. The draft is my favorite part of the year.
That's another thing. We'll tell Daniel next week. I'm saying it right now. Next week we will have our mock drafts.
Why don't we got a few weeks. Maybe we'll just do top 10. Maybe we can do 10 because
we'll do our top 10 next week.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that as well.
Cool. It gives us time to not necessarily dive in too hard.
Yeah, we don't have to go all 32 because fuck me.
Because this is a good draft class, man. I've been watching a lot.
It's a
of
deep
them.
wide receiver class.
Yeah,
dude,
wide
like
receivers, tackles, and that tight end out of Florida, Kyle Pitts.
Oh, Kyle Pitts.
He reminds me of Calvin Johnson.
And Alabama just had their pro day today.
Yeah, I saw that. It's Patrick Surtain, big name, and then
Mac Jones.
Najee Harris didn't do anything.
But he drove there after 9 hours. I saw that too.
Yeah.
All right. We're just gonna wrap it up. Sorry. We're gonna wrap it up. Appreciate everyone that came on live. We'll have Daniel back next week.
We'll be full strength.
Dude, appreciate everyone that's always rocking with us, dude. And go Padres.
See you guys next week. Thanks, Chris.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James.
Side into the end zone, jump ball, and it is. Is it caught? Is it caught? Oh my goodness, it's caught! DeAndre Hopkins caught it!